Hi everyone, welcome to the Adobe Premiere section of lesson number 2. I wanted to start by launching Adobe Premiere Pro. If you're working at COD, you're going to have access to Premiere Pro currently 2019 and 2018. If you're working at home, I would guess that you're going to be working on the newer version. I'm actually going to take us to the older version, 2018, but there are not that much differences between the 2018 and 2019 version. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to launch it because it does take some time to load. And let me just locate it through here. Okay, so you can see down on my dock at the bottom that Adobe Premiere Pro 2018 is loading. And again, if you come to work at the MPTV department or at the College Library Media Center, they are going to have all the other applications that Adobe creates. And we do teach some of these in our department as well, such as After Effects and Photoshop. So they do have that bundle either at the library or in our department as well. So while that's loading, I want to talk to you about the items that I mailed out to you. So if you've had a chance, you've gotten 2 flash drives. You got flash drive number 1 and flash drive number 2. They were only 2 gigabytes. That's all I could find and locate at the college. So I had to take the project that you guys were going to be working on, which is JPOPs, and I had to divide it over 2 flash drives. So what I'm going to do while Premiere is loading is I'm just going to put in one of my flash drives. This is number 1. It doesn't really matter which one you load first because you're going to load everything at some point. All right, so here's something weird, and I've had this happen with a couple other flash drives that I use, is it'll create 2 different images or disks. You're going to see that on both flash drives when you plug them in that happens. You just got to click on the one that has the information, which this one is on that one that I just clicked on. And the top one is actually the student handbook, which is on both flash drives. So just make sure you click on both of them if you're not able to locate the footage. So what I'm going to do now while Premiere is loading is I'm going to set up my master folder of everything that I'm going to be using for this particular project. I'm going to start to create the media for that and organizing it. On the computers at COD, you can't save a folder. Actually, look, now Premiere's open. But you can't save a folder to the desktop if you're working at COD. The minute you shut the computer down, the folder will be gone. So if I went right now, File, now I'm in Premiere, File, New Folder, and I have a folder here on the desktop, and I name this, and I give it a name, and I shut down the computer, and I come back the next day, it's going to be gone. Now, that's not going to happen on your home computer, but it will happen if you're on the college campus. So what I recommend is if you're going to come to COD is either that you work off a hard drive or you're going to want to go to the storage folder in the edit bays that you would probably be using here at COD, or if you are in a classroom at COD, the storage drive. So I'm going to go on here. It's empty at the moment. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to label the folder for me just because other students are going to be coming in and using this particular computer that I'm on. I'm just going to name it PL MPTV 1011 Spring 2020. And so what we want to start doing is media management because you're going to be working on other things throughout this course. And it's just really a good practice to have because you don't want to have you don't want to lose video clips or audio clips or graphics because of the way that your folders were organized and not organizing it ahead of time before you begin editing. So what I'm going to do in this folder is I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call that JPOPs because that's what we're going to be working on. So here's the JPOPs folder. And so now in JPOPs, I can create multiple folders. So another folder that I'll create will be music, will be sound effects. Another folder could be graphics. And another folder will be clips. Oh, I wanted that to go over here. Clips. Oh. Let me click on that again. Clips. So if I went too fast, my apologies. To create these folders, I'm creating subfolders now. This is my main folder, then JPOPs, and then the individual folders that are under JPOPs. I went up to File, and I did New Folder. And there's other ways that you can do it. I mean, there's shortcuts, but that's the longer way, I guess, of doing it. So again, I'm practicing my media management, and I'm going to be having source material go into these folders for the JPOPs project that we're working on. And the final folder I will add is export, because we will be exporting the project. And another thing that some people add are log sheets, but we'll see on that. You know, we might add that folder in a moment. So now I'm going to come back over to my Premiere that was loaded, and then I said goodbye to it. There it is. So here's Premiere Pro. We're going to be creating a new project, and so you will have this box pop up. The other thing that you want to do at this time is, if you haven't, is I put up on Blackboard the directions for using Adobe Premiere Pro. I would encourage you to print those. Now I have to say that they are a little outdated. I don't know what version they went to, but most of it is the same. There's a few minor things, probably definitely under the titling, that is not done the same in 2018 or 2019. But to get you started, you're going to have this window pop up, and you're going to want to give it a name, and you're going to want to save it to a particular place, and this is where that media management becomes important. So right now, if I just named it Peel, my last name, it'd be your last name, JPOPs, and I hit save, it's going to go under Documents, Adobe Premiere Pro. And so I would be searching all over the computer to find where my master of this project is. So we want to go to the Browse button here and navigate to our folder that we just created. Again, yours might be on the desktop. Mine is going to be in the storage drive under my folder and JPOPs. Now, here when you create it, I'll go back to it, but you will at some point see the Adobe project. It'll come up in purple. You'll see that icon, and then you'll see scratch disks, and then another folder that is leaving my mind at the moment. But when we look it up, autosave, I believe, is the other folder that you'll see here. Not scratch disks, autosave. So under here, your general is, we want to browse. So now I said I'm going to go here, so now I'm going to choose. So now it's changed. It's going to go under my last name, Spring 2020 JPOPs. Again, creating media management, and things won't be lost. Under here, under scratch disks, nothing has to be set here, but I want you to see that it's all going to that same folder that I created. And this is important because you're going to be having video that comes in. You're going to be having an autosave vault, which means if your program should crash, you can go back in and open up the last one in the autosave vault, and it may miss some of the things that you did, but it won't make you start from scratch. So we want that to be in the same folder. So that's what some of these scratch disks are saying, you know, what they're doing. So motion graphic templates, and they're all going into the Spring 2020. So now I'm going to click OK. Once I click OK, I'm going to, it's just saying that there's replace the older version. Just click OK on that. And it's going to open up Adobe Premiere Pro. So we're going to go through what we have on Adobe Premiere Pro, and we're going to be working off of page number 1 here, and that's the packet that is in Blackboard for the Adobe Premiere instructions. So we're going to start and work through that. So it says, what is the purpose of the project panel? Well, the project panel is right down here. And the project panel is right now in blue. If I click on different things, you'll see that they're highlighted. And that means it's the one that's in use. So we're down here in the project panel. What you're going to see in a moment, once we go through all of these windows, we're going to import our clips, and you will start to see clips over here. The other thing that you can do in the, and you also see your main project will be in the project bin. The other thing that you're going to see are effects, which we'll get to later in the discussion, which is going to be your dissolves and your wipes will be there, as well as audio effects. And then there's other things that you can do in here, but again, we're introducing you to Adobe Premiere Pro, so we keep it pretty basic. So we'll go back to this once we get some images imported. Number 2, what is a source panel used for? Well, this is a source panel right here. Again, not much we're going to see until we get some video clips installed or imported, but this is going to be your rough edit. We always say it's the preview. It says source, but you're previewing it. You're previewing your clip, you're marking your in and your out points, and then once you have your in and your out points, you say where you want your clip to start and where you want your clip to end. It's going to end up going to the program window, which is number 3. And I think of the program window as your master window. This is the window that is going to represent your final project. It's what you would want your viewers to see on your YouTube channel, on your Instagram feed. Well, maybe not Instagram, but YouTube. Facebook's maybe a better one. Or broadcast, right? So this is going to be a program. Down below is your timeline. And this is where you're going to do most of your editing. And your timeline and your program window go together. So whatever you're doing down here is going to be reflected up here, vice versa. So these represent each other. Over here is your audio meters. We do very basic audio and intro. And it's pretty much saying you're going to set your audio level here, and that's pretty much what we do. We do a little bit in the timeline, but not more than that. And you can do a lot. There's a window up here. I'm not going to click on it, but there is a window that lets you change workspaces, and you can go to audio right there and have it detailed. Also, that just brings up a good point. I do have students from time to time who will call me over in class, and they'll have lost a window. It'll have disappeared. You can either go look for it in here and see if it's not clicked, or sometimes what I do is I just go back and I set it back to editing. Maybe I'll go to audio real quick, I'll switch it to audio, then I'll go right back to editing, and it brings everything back. So that's what I do if someone loses one of their windows. And then the final window we're going to take a look at is number 6. No, actually, it is number 4. What information do you find in the toolbar? And that's going to be you're going to be using these tools to do your fine-tune editing. And again, we'll get to this. So we don't go through all of them. We go through a couple of them. We use them. I'll show them once we get some clips in. Okay. I think before we move on to number 6, we're going to jump ahead and get some clips in. So we're going to import video clips into our project. And again, you can do this multiple ways. I'm going to do it the longer way, which is go to File. Oh, but before we do that, we need to do one other thing. So what I was about to do was I was about to go File and Import, which is correct, and I was going to navigate over to our disk image right here. Problem is, if I take this directly right now from our disk image and I import it into Adobe Premiere Pro, the media will be lost once I take this flash drive out. And so we don't want to do that. We want to get the footage that is on this flash drive into our folder. So I'm going to cancel here, and I'm going to minimize. So if I hit this yellow button here, I can minimize it, and it's just going to be in my dock. So what I need to do now is go into this image. I'm going to take these two, boy and sticks. I'm going to take them and drag it to clips. It didn't go where I want it to go. I'll drag it in a minute. I'll let it drop. I missed my folder there. So with this project, J-Pops, I think you're working with over 50 shots between the image of the boy, the girl, the two of them together, and then just the miscellaneous shots. I'm going to move into my folder because it didn't go there. Oh, okay. Let me do it yet. All right, now let me see if it lets me drag it into. Okay. Now I got them in my clips. That's where I wanted them. I dropped them outside the folder. All right, now let's go back to Premiere. I just clicked on it in the dock and then it brought it back to full screen. Let's go back to File, and now you're going to go to Import. You're going to navigate to your folder, wherever that is, either on the desktop or in a storage drive. Go to your folder. I'm going to go to Clips, and I'm going to select Boy, and I'm going to select Sticks. And I'm going to click Import. It's going to come over in here. Okay. So the other thing is why I'm doing a lot of the stuff that I'm showing you. I would encourage you to pause it and try it, or continue to do it along with me as we're talking about it. Now, again, if you don't have access to Adobe Premiere Pro, and some of you have access to other editing software, I did say that you could use that. So if you do have access to it, it's going to be easier than go with the other programs. But I do think it's if you're going to continue on in this industry, it's really important that you do learn Premiere Pro because it's an industry standard software. So in folder 1, I'm going to go and just click on it. And these are the sticks. So in the project, what happens is it's a commercial. And so you can either do 60 seconds or 50. You're going to have a little boy who is sitting on a ledge eating a popsicle. And he looks over and he sees the girl. She's actually right there. The girl. And, you know, he's watching what she's doing. She's playing in the sand. And he gets her attention by hitting the sticks here. You can see me playing with, scrolling through. And we follow them along, and it goes through all these shots. You see where you can kind of see where the sticks are moving along in these shots. And then, here, maybe this one shows it there as the sticks are moving along. And then it ends up going right past her and into her bucket, and she pulls out one of the sticks. And the stick says, I forgot what the stick says, but I think it says something on it. I forgot what it says. But then she looks up at them, and then she walks over and sits on the ledge with them. Okay. So I'm going to now jump to number 7 before I go to number 6. And it says, how do you open a clip in a source panel? So I'm just going to double click on this one right here. So there you go. Double clicked on it with the left side of my mouse, and it opened up in my source window. So I'm going to backtrack now to number 6. What is timecode? Well, now you're going to be able to see it because we have some media in one of the windows. This is timecode. This is timecode. You'll see it in the windows as you look at them. This gives you the total of the clip. If I mark an in point, which I'm just going to do real quick, and I mark an out point, I've now made this clip 5 seconds and 13 frames. So what we have here is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So as we talked about in the lessons, it is 30 frames make up 1 second of video. So there's going to be 30 frames here. As I play forward or back, I'll back it up here a second. You can see the frame changing over here, right? So 22, 23 on the left of the screen. Oh, this might be in 24 frames as I'm talking to you. I think I'm realizing that. Oh yeah, this one's in 24 frames. So that's what they shot this in. Typically we'll work on either 30 frames or 24. Most of the classes I work with are 30, and the film classes are dealing with the 24. So that's why that number changed. So you have your in and your out there. So you're going to, again, hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So I showed you number 7 to double click. It's going to open up in here. And then number 8 says, how can you quickly move through your clip? This blue bar lets you move quickly through a clip. We call it the scrubber. I'm just holding down the left side of my mouse and scrubbing through it. Now there's some shortcuts that you can do, and those shortcuts, the first one is the space bar. So press your space bar on your computer right now on the keyboard and see what happens. It plays it. If you hit it again, it's going to stop it. So this is the shortcut that I use a lot, the play and the stop. Another one is the letter J. So J is going to play it backwards. J a couple of times, plays it fast. What I do sometimes when I'm editing, if I'm editing a long process of someone talking, I will have it on going forward. I'll play it, and I'll play it so that they're talking a little bit higher speed so I can hear what they're saying to try to get to the area in the piece that I need to. So that's L. So J is going to go backwards, and if you hit it a couple times, it goes faster backwards. L, if you hit it, will go forward. If you hit it a couple times, it'll go forward faster. And I think you can do it up to 5 times. K, I'm going to hit, K is going to stop it. If you want to go frame by frame, which I was doing when we were talking about the time code up here, I was going frame by frame. On your keyboard, you are going to have the arrows. If you're looking at the Mac keyboard, you'll have the arrows that are going to the left and to the right, and they're near the number pad. If I click on the arrow pointing to the right, I'm going to go frame forward. You can see my frames changing right here as I do it. And if I frame back, you'll see them change right there. They're going back. Now, you also have right in that same area on the keyboard of the Mac, you have the arrows going up and going down. When we move to the timeline, we will use those. So I'll show you once we're in the timeline how to use that. Okay, so we're going to move on to page 2. In page 2, we're actually going to skip. This is for capturing video, which it's been a while in the MPTV department that we have captured video. It's been quite a few years, but these were the directions on how to capture off of a video cassette. Page 3, we've already done, and it talks about setting up your scratch discs. The other thing that Premiere's changed in years is that first page that we went up to, and we saved your project, and we had set the scratch disc, or I should say the project. We really just saved the project, and we did it to go to JPOPs, and you can see that's where it is now. There's the Premiere project. When we did that screen that you see on page 3, you used to actually have to go in and change the audio to make sure it went to the right folder, the video, the previews. Now you just have to do it once. Before you had to do it individually. So that's page 3 there. Moving on to page 4. Okay. So we're going to go down to number 1, and we're going to talk about an override edit. So what I'm going to have you do real quick is mark some in and outs and I'm just going to have you drag them to the timeline. So to mark it in and out, there's several ways that you can do it. The easiest way, I think, is using on your keyboard I for in, O for out. And you want to put an in to the place where you want your clip to start. It doesn't have to be exact. You can tweak it once it gets into the timeline. Same with the out. You want it close to where you want it to be. You can always tweak it once you bring it to the timeline. So once you mark that in and out, we're just going to left click on it. So I'm left clicking. You can see where it kind of turns to that hand, and I'm dragging it down to the timeline, and I'm dropping it. Okay, so now lots of more things are appearing now that we did that. So the timeline has now been activated because of that. So there is that clip, and I marked my in and my out point. Now what I'm going to go do is I'm going to get a couple more shots so that we can continue on to number 1 on page 4. So I'll go with the skateboarders next. You don't have to use the same images as I do. You can get whatever you'd like. We're just practicing here. And I'm going to mark an I again, and I'm going to mark an O for my out. Another way that you can mark an in and an out is you can use these 2 icons here, mark in, mark out. I will do that for the next clip I bring in. Again, I'm going to hold it down with my left of my mouse, drag it, and just drop it right next to it. So I'll go get the shot here. This time I will use the eye here. Again, I just clicked on the icon and then the out icon. And now this shot is 21 seconds and 9 frames. So I got a pretty long one here there. Okay, I'll go get another clip. We'll go here. Again, I'm double clicking on it and it's opening up in my source. I'm going to go back to my shortcuts, which is I on the computer. I'm going to make this one shorter, and O. I still made that one long. It's 22 seconds and 18 frames. I thought I made it shorter. All right, so I have 4 shots here. And nothing makes sense. I just dragged them to the timeline. I'm just using this for example. Number 1 says, how do you perform an overwrite edit? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blue scrubber, and I'm going to drag it right here. And to know that I'm right, where this break is in the timeline, I am going to use those arrows that I talked about on the keyboard. So the ones that were pointing to the right and pointing to the left, that's going to go by frames. The ones that are pointing up and down are going to put you at the beginning and the end of your edit. So I use that to make sure that I'm right where I need to be with my scrubber. I want to be at the end of the clip, right between the 2 clips. I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to mark an in and an out point. So, oh my gosh, I keep making really long shots. Let me shorten this. Okay, now I'm at 13. I was 33. I wanted to make it shorter there. So I am at 13 seconds and 21 frames, where I marked my in and my out point. Right now, I am at, oops, sorry, wrong one. I wanted to be over here. So as I scroll, as I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard, I'm taking a look at what my what my time code is saying, and I'm at the end here. So if I scroll down back, I'm at 43:21, right? So that's where I have it at. I'm going to take this clip here, and I'm not going to drag it down this time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this icon right here called Overwrite. I'm going to select it, and you're going to see that my time code is at 106. So if I go down here, I'm at 106. Now if I edit undo that, which is Command Z, and I edit undo that, I'm still at 106. So again, if I hit this again where I had it, and I hit Overwrite, you're going to see that my time stays the same. I just dropped this clip in, and my time still stayed at 1 minute, 6 seconds, and 0 frames. So how the overwrite works is it just pastes over the clip. It doesn't extend your project. So what happened here was it pasted over this clip, and then it still played what was remaining. If I hit Command Z and you look down here, you're going to see the shots here, right? When I hit the overwrite, it pastes over half of it. Because this shot's 13 seconds, and the shot that's in the timeline is longer, so it's going to play the remainder of it. Now if I hit Command Z, and we're going to take this shot, and we're going to do number 2, and insert edit, my time being 1 minute, 6 seconds, this is what's going to happen. I'm now at 1 minute, 19 seconds, and 21 frames. So what happens with the overwrite is it drops the clip in where you want it to be, depending on where you have your loose scrubber at. It drops it in, and it pushes everything down. So it extends your project. So if you had to stay in a certain time and you needed to fit that image in, if you did the insert edit, there's a chance that you could extend over the time of the total running time the project can be. Whereas if you did the overwrite, it would keep the same time and it would just paste over. But I have to tell you that most people don't use those 2 icons. I show them, but most people don't use them. What most people do is they just take the clip, left click, drag it, and drop it where they want, because you can move it around when you're in the timeline. But you do have that option to do insert or overwrite. All right, we're moving on to the bottom of page 4, and we're going to be talking about what tools are essential for editing. So we're going to be moving over to this area right here to do some fine-tune editing. Before we go over there, I'm just going to show you a couple more things up here. So this is your in and your out point. You're going to have them on both windows. You're going to have your play button. This will let you go back frame as well as go back by frame. This will take you to your out. This will take you to your out. And this will take you to your in. And then we went over these 2 icons. We are going to go over this one in a moment, and that's to do a freeze frame. And I'll show you that right near the end of the lecture. I show you how to do the freeze frame. This here is going to let you just drag video. So if you didn't want the audio that went with it, you just want the video, you can drag that down. Same with if you just wanted the audio, not the video, you can drag the audio down. A couple things I want to point on the timeline before we move over here. You have 3 video tracks that are showing, video 1, video 2, video 3. Well, in video 1, that's where you're going to drop most of your clips in, and we kind of build up. I believe you can have 99 video tracks in Adobe Premiere Pro, which is a lot, and I think it would be very confusing to have that many. We typically keep it around maybe 5 at most, and most of us will just deal with the video 1. Usually what people will do is they'll do their editing in video 1, they'll put the story together. Video 2 would be either graphics, any titles, or we call them lower thirds, which are name titles you would have there. Or we talk about B-roll. And we're going to get to B-roll when we get to lesson number 5 for the documentary. But B-roll, let's say this was all interviews with people. B-roll would be the clips that would accompany those interviews, and they would go on top. And then if you did the B-roll on video 2, then on 3, you'd put your graphics. So you got the 3 video, you got the 3 audio. And the audio is the same with the video. You can have up to like 99 audio tracks. Most people have the audio. You can see there's no audio going with here. So some things you're going to be working on, you're going to bring in, and there's going to be audio right here, right away. Because the clip has people talking, and they're going to have their dialogue here. This particular sequence we're working with for J-Pops has no sound. And then what you'd put in audio 2 is music. And then in audio 3 could be, sound effects and or music as well. You can lock a channel, which we're going to definitely be doing when we work on things. And we'll get to that as we go through, but you can lock the channel. I just want to make note that I show you guys that for sure when we get to it. Lock the channel. And then you can turn the eye off so you don't see it, what's in that track. On the audio side, you can mute so you don't hear it. You can also lock it so nothing happens to it. And then you can solo it so you can just hear that. Okay, now moving over here. So now I'm on to page 5. And between page 4 and page 5, it starts to just describe the different icons that we're going to be looking at. And I'm going to point them out. So the first one I'm going to work with is, I like to call it the default tool. It's called the selection tool. But as you start to work through these tools, I always say when you're done using those particular tools, you want to go right back to the default. So to move things around in the timeline, you're going to need this icon right here. And if I want to take this clip and I want to move it to the end, I just left click on it, drag it over, and drop it. But now I have a hole here. So if people that watch my show, they'd be like, oh my goodness, there's like 20 seconds of black. And we'd lose their attention. So what you do is you right click, so on your mouse, right click right over that, and you're going to hit ripple delete. When we hit ripple delete, it's going to bring everything together. So what we did is we just moved that clip around. I can move this clip over right there. Again, I got that hole in there, and I can ripple delete. You can move multiple clips. I could select this clip and by holding shift down on the keyboard and selecting the other clip, and I can move those. I can move them back too. If you want to get rid of a clip, let's say I was going to get rid of this, I am going to hit delete on my keyboard. It deletes it, but now we have a space. Again, we're going to right click, we're going to ripple delete. Another way that you can move them, and this becomes very common. So let's say that you've got a 20-minute video here. And then you realize, oh wait, I need to add a credit at the beginning. But your whole 20-minute video is done. Well, you don't want to sit there going, I got to move this one down, got to move this one down, got to move this one down. You don't want to do it like that, right? That would take forever. So what you're going to do is you're going to get this icon right here, the track selection, and you're going to put it right there, and it's going to move everything down. What's also nice about this one with the 2 arrows right there is if you have something in video 2 and 3, and then you have something in audio channel 1, 2, and 3, it's going to move it all down. It's going to keep it all together. So you just move it down, then you go back to your default. You do what you need to over here. You add that credit in, and then you go back here, and then you drag them back. Now, you can select it from different places too. You know, I had it right there. I could go right here and just move it from that area. You know, if it was more like right in the middle of the project that we had to add an image and we had to make room for it, I could move everything down to do that. So I'm going to hit Command Z, which I do a lot, to undo what I just did. And then I'm going to drag this all to, oops, see, I dragged, I want to take it from here and drag it down. I'm going to go back to the default there. You can also copy a clip. Let's say I have this clip here, and I want to have it a couple times. I'm going to have my scrubber down at the end. I'm going to copy this one, Command C, like copy, Command C, Command V, Command V. So I'm Command C on the Mac is copying, so I copied it here. Command V is pasting it. Command Z again is undoing, which I say I do a lot. So I'll do that. We're going to go to the razor blade tool, number 8 on page 5, the last one there. So here's the razor blade. So the razor blade's great because you can do some really nice fine-tune editing. You can have it where someone is looking directly into the camera to not be looking directly into the camera. From someone saying, to not saying it at all. You can use that razor blade. But you gotta be careful with the razor blade because I always like to joke that you can make it a bloody mess if you don't turn it off. So once you splice the stuff out that you want, you need to turn it off because if not, you're gonna just end up splicing everything. But I think the best way to use the razor blade is to make sure that you're zoomed in. And we have a couple ways that we can zoom in on the timeline. And I'm constantly zooming in, expanding it, and unexpanding it. That's a word. So what I do here is I use the plus and I expand it. Right? So I'm getting down to the frames. You can see it changing in the timeline here. I'm getting down to the frames. Or I can compress it there, right? And now it's showing more of the timeline, which we haven't gotten to, right? So we want to be really zeroed in. So I'm going to do that. Oh, let me do one other thing. Down here is where you can do it too. So you can expand it. See down at the bottom of the timeline, I'm doing that. Okay. So we're going to go, and I'm going to say, is there anything happening? Okay. What's going on with this clip? Hold on, let me just shrink this a second. I gotta find somewhere I want. Okay. Before the girl feet touch the ground, I'm gonna cut. So there she goes. So I'm gonna back it up a couple frames. So now I'm using the frames on my keyboard to go back so that her feet are up in the air, right there. And I'm going to, I can zoom in here. The plus icon. So on the keyboard, the plus icon is going to let you zoom in. And I'm going to go get my splicer. I'm going to splice it right there. So now I'm going to move my scrubber. I'm going to shrink it again by using the minus on the keyboard. And I have broken that clip right there. So let's say I want it to go from I want to get rid of this one, right? Well, see, as I told you, once you splice it, because I made that splice right here, you need to turn the splicer off, or I'm going to start to splice up more of this clip. So I'm just going to go to my default selection tool. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to hit delete. And to close the gap, we right-click, and we hit ripple delete. So there we go. So again, to do a splice, I'll try to find one more area to do one in. It's just these guys are not doing anything in the shot here. They're waiting for their cue. So before his hand touches the skateboard, I'm going to, or right when it touches the skateboard, I'm going to cut. Right? So he's touching it there. Right? I can go frame by frame. Now I'm just holding down the frame button. I'm going back, just holding down that key. I go forward a little bit more, framing forward. You can see by looking at my time code that I'm going frame forward. I'm going to go get my splicer again. I'm going to hover over the area that I want to splice. You have to have that blue scrubber there. I left click. I broke the clip. Now I go to my default selection tool. I'm going to take this back end of it, delete it, and I right click, and hit ripple delete. So now it is there. All right, moving on to page 6. Number 8, the magnifying tool is no longer a tool over here. It used to be. You're going to use the plus or minus that I already showed you on the keyboard to zoom in and to zoom out. And then you can also use the bottom to zoom in and to zoom out. So fast or slow motion. People like to do that. So let me find something with motion here. Let me find another clip that has motion maybe. Because I've cut a lot of these things apart. Oh, what's going on here? We'll go with this one. We're going to take it right from here. I'm going to mark my in, and I'm going to mark my out. Some of the clips already have motion on it. We're just going to add more motion to it. I'm going to drag it and drop it here at the back. So now we're going to add motion to it. I'm going to select the clip. And by the way, the way that you can tell that I'm selecting a clip, these are all purple, and I left click on this one, and it's white. Now I clicked off, but if I click on it, it's going to turn a different color. And then I'm going to go up to clip. I'm going to go to speed duration. So in speed duration, it's at 100% right now. It's playing at the normal speed. We're going to go 200% and see what that looks like. I'm going to click OK. Let's see what it looks like here. Well, I didn't really notice that much of a difference. Let's go here again. Go to clip. Let's try 50%. It's going to extend it. So it's real. I think we notice it more on this one because it already has a speed on it. So I think we notice it more when we slowed it down, how dramatic it can be. So slow motion, that is at 50%. Let me go back up to clip here and show you some more things about the speed duration. I always tell students when they're playing around with it, I mean, yeah, you can go for 50%, but if it looks a little too comical, then, move it to 75. Or, well, I guess that'd be more on the speed side. The faster usually looks a little more comical. So if you're at 200 and it looks too fast and, too comical looking, then move it to 150, then try 125. So just play around with that. I can also turn it back to the regular speed by putting 100% here. You can put it in reverse, which means it's going to play it backwards. So you could hit that and then just select OK. All right, so that's that. We're going to skip number 10 and 11 and go to number 12. And number 12 is, how do you do freeze frame? So we're going to go back over to a shot here. I guess actually up here you can bring up a shot. Let's see. Let's say I wanted to freeze frame this right here. I had my scrubber in the source at the place that I wanted it. Now I'm going to hit the camera. When I take this, it's going to create a still frame. I select that, and I go under here, and I'm going to do JPEG. I save it as a JPEG, and I can browse if I want to my, and I'm going to browse to my folder, which I'm under storage, PL, JPOPs. And this is, you can call it a clip. It kind of falls under a clip more than a graphic, so I'll put it under clips. I'll choose. And I could hit OK. So let's say I did this right now. I took this shot. I'm going to click OK. If I did that and I wanted to bring it into my timeline, I would have to go in to import and bring it back in. So just import it directly into your project, because that's an extra step you don't want to have to do. If I don't have this checked, I'm going to have to go, once I click OK, I'm going to have to go File, Import, navigate to JPOPs, go to Clips, select it from there and importing it. It's just easier just to select Import so it goes directly over here. I do that. Then sometimes it's hard for me to find where the clip went. And it's right there. No, it's not. Where'd my clip go? See, sometimes I can't find it, just like I did now. Oh, gotta find where it went to. I thought it was this one, but it says it's an MOV, so I need it to be a still. And I don't see where it went to. Let me try it one more time. I'm going to name it girl so I can find it easier. Okay, there it is. No, there it was. I did have it. It was right there. Okay. So it was easier when I named it. So there she is. So if I click it, it's just a still frame of her. Okay, there we go with that. Let's talk about reducing a clip in the timeline. This is something I do a lot too. I stretch it out, make it smaller. All I'm doing is on the left of my mouse, I'm just holding down the left side of my, or pressing left side of my mouse, and I'm just stretching it out or reducing it. But here's the thing. If this clip right here is only 5 seconds, it's only going to let you stretch it out for 5 seconds. So it's only going to let you do as much as the clip is. Same with, shrinking it, right? But I mean, you're only going to be able to stretch it out as long as the clip is. See, that's as long as the clip is. That's as long as I'm going to be able to go. Okay, and then the other step I want to show you is number 11. No, I'm sorry, number 10 on page 6 is rendering. How do you render in Premiere Pro? You're going to go up to sequence. And so let me explain rendering first. Right now this is yellow. And you got green, yellow, red, that'll come up here. And it's like a warning. And so if you want it to, render through, you're telling the computer to process the effects that you have or the titles. So what you do is you go up to render. And you have effects, you have in to out, render selection or audio. I'm going to go in to out. And it's going to build. Now notice this yellow is going to start to turn green. Usually after it's done rendering too, it plays the whole project through. So once it's done rendering, you'll see that. Oh. Okay, and then once it's rendered, it'll play the whole piece through. See, and it turns green. And you're going to see that as you, again, this I added, I turned it to 50%, which could have caused it. So you'll just get that to happen from time to time. We're going to move on to another item, but I wanted to show you one more thing, and that's locking. Again, if I lock this page, I wish I had some audio. We're going to do that once I bring the next flash drive. But if I had audio here and I wanted to move it around, you know what I'm going to do instead? I'm going to take this and move it up. Now if I lock channel 1, I can move this clip around here and nothing's going to happen to video track 1. I'm just moving what's in video track 2. So I use a lock a lot too, because a lot of times your clips are going to come in with audio and you want to just move the video and not the audio clip, so I lock it.